Hi there. Welcome to another presentation of the Globe Sound Healing Conference. Now we have Marya Stark. Hi there.
Hi, nice to be here.
Marya is a award-winning vocalist, music producer, performer, multi-instrumentist, and international teacher of expressive arts as a path of transformation. Her body of work is steeped in the arts of music therapy, mythical folklore, energetic medicine, and womb awakening. She's a member of the Starling Arrow and has independently released 9 albums and has had her releases seen airplay on NPR. She's the founder of Temple of the Muse, where she serves a growing student body in the cultivation of prolific creativity, inner alchemy, womb wisdom, songwriting as a soul craft, and vocal empowerment. She's a chaser of waterfalls, a lover of wonder, and a receiver of songs between the worlds. What have you been up to lately?
Well, yesterday, speaking of Starling Arrow, they were in town here in Grass Valley where I live, and we had our annual concert yesterday at Center for the Arts, and it was wonderful and full and rambunctious. And so I'm coming off the delicious high of that collective of incredible songwriters and musicians and muses of my life. And we, yeah, spent the week together co-writing a new body of work and performing our previous album. And it was fabulous.
Excellent. Cool. Okay, here's the big question. If you had all the money in the world, what would you do to help people on the planet?
This is such a juicy question. I've thought about this. There was a game that I played once where for every day for 30 days, you write down what you would do. Like on day one, you write down what you would do with $100, and then the next day you double it to 200, and then the next day you double it to 400, and like by 30 days, you're in the multiple billions of dollars. Like it doubles really fast. And I found through that exercise that after a while, you get everything that you personally want, that you could spend money on, and it has to expand beyond the self to be able to even circulate that amount of wealth without hoarding it. Like the exercise was to absolutely spend it. You know, you had to spend every dime that day. Um, and so I found that what I was spending my multiple billions of dollars on was was absolute food security for every human on the planet. Um, was securing as much undeveloped land as possible and giving it back to indigenous people and making sure that they and like welcoming counsel for how to tend the land in that the ways of their ancestors. Um, and I was also really wanting to develop free energy technology and seeing what that would be like to incorporate as part of the work um, to not be dependent on the type of resources that we've been in an extractive relationship with the earth, and then planting a whole lot of trees, planting lots and lots of trees and doing what I could to rehabilitate the land that we had taken from. So those were the things that I want to do with endless amounts of money.
Excellent. Excellent. I've got, from reading your bio, I've got another question that's similar.
Sure.
So once all of our needs, as far as food and healthcare and cleaning up, and we say we've cleaned up all the water, we've taken care of everything, so everybody's abundant,
Mm-hmm.
everybody's completely taken care of. Then it's playtime.
Right.
So what in your bio you talk about creativity.
Yeah.
How would you expand people's creativity once all of their needs are taken care of?
I mean, I love this question. I'm devoted to the path of understanding creativity and people's different capacities. I think when there's a lot of uh, institutional insecurity um, and conditions that occupy a huge amount of our life force energy, it kind of zaps the spirit. The energy is all focused on those things. So it's a great question. Like, what do we do with all that energy? Like, I, the answer is unclear to me because I don't know that we've ever crossed that event horizon. And I think that the process would become very emergent. And so, as much as possible, I would want to participate in facilitating and defining emergent strategies that could make space for different people's aptitudes and natural curiosities and find ways to have those tended to well. um, but in terms of like me defining what creativity is for people, I think there I create in a very specific way, and there are so many other types of humans with different ways of being and orientations and life experiences. And so I don't even know if I could imagine ways on their behalf to help them cultivate their creativity other than being a permissionary and a welcomer and a kind of like an open guide in terms of and I think a lot of it would be relational tending because I think the biggest clashes that come up in creative process have to do with um, personality differences and unresolved um, early childhood developmental stuff. So I'd be spending a lot of time in developmental research and understanding the psyche and finding ways to help support uh, continued development over a lifetime. And I think when people are more in a rested state, I mean, the idea is that people want to participate in that, and we'll need to navigate a lot of, I imagine, content. And so, I would probably want to support places where the content of the unconscious would be able to be held well, because that stuff's probably messy for a lot of folks. I know it's really messy for me when I encounter it. And I know that sometimes I keep busy with the minutia of life to avoid that. And I think if all of um, the karma of scarcity were resolved, we would be having to navigate a whole new realm of karmic ripening that is, fascinating to try and future pace and pave what that would actually be like. I think it would
I
be
love that.
eruptive.
Hmm. We're doing a whole program for kids. We've got
Yeah.
massive funding to create a whole program around the world. And I just met with a company called Coherence Education, and they're already working with kids and doing some pretty cool things. They actually do a form for kids to see what they're interested in and what their gifts might be. And then they go on Chat GPT and put that in and get like 20 or so different projects and say, okay, any of these resonate with you?
Yeah.
And a
That's
lot
really
of and they're
cool.
about helping the planet.
Wow. That's a really cool project to be a part of.
There's also, it occurs to me, you know, uh, some creativity comes from seeing the structure of the universe. Because
Mm.
I know if you really study sacred geometry, you can actually take those basics and create some unbelievable art.
Yeah,
Right?
definitely.
But the other aspect is if you lead people into spirit where their intuition opens up and they start getting downloads, then that's a whole nother level to be able to actually lead them to a place where, they're in contact with their soul or they're in contact with higher beings that are malevolent, that are ready to help.
Right. I love that. And like, I think that that is so beautiful. And one of the reasons why I love sound as a medium for bridge building and as again, a space for, just like walking back a little bit, I came into sound healing as through the door of music therapy. So I went to school for music therapy at Chapman University. And I came into music therapy because I was very interested in the intersection of psyche, which is soul, and story, and sacred geometry, mathematics, and sound and creativity, like spontaneous creativity, and then the sort of the ineffable and indefinable emotional terrain that is unpredictable and is part of the chaos factor that I think keeps things interesting, um, and imperfect and untamable. Um, and so I was really passionate about that intersection, and I remember um, at that time I was creating a myth about like the sacred geometrical origins of the universe, but from like a passionate like like the love affair between fire and death, and like it was very erotic and fun, and it hit that chord in me as a young person where like things could be defined but in the undefinable, and in only in the like meeting of opposites into unity, and that became a doorway through which I really started exploring like how much material is there really in the human collective unconscious that is connected to the depth of what it's like to evolve through different stages of life, which really led me into my work that I'm doing now. But I remember at that time I was studying the origins of like one of my professors. He gave me this book, and it was all about the how like mathematics developed alongside the mythologies of the stars, which developed alongside the development of our understanding of the geometries within the musical scale, and that those three created this triangle of like co-evolution, which fascinated me to know. And I was like, wow, our just aspirations to understand the stars through the mythologies of like where the human consciousness goes to sense make was arising with our understanding of music as this terrain of creativity and emotion and beauty, and with mathematics it's like very defined realization of the materials of the universe, and like how that evolved human consciousness over many centuries. So I feel really excited about what we're learning now about how all of these things interlock. And I think that more than ever, we're seeing the connection between all of these things. But I loved learning that origin story of that. That really impressed me as a young person, that the power of story, too, as a storyteller, to be able to include and incorporate some of these deeper layers of science and tone and like the underlying spiritual material of everything in a emergent creative way that accesses the psyche and accesses the other than human realm to be relational with that. So I love that you spoke that to that about cultivating with children, because and cultivating with humans in general. If like we if our basic needs are met, then that opens up all of this other energy, and the senses open up to other perceptive levels of being, which I love. Yeah.
It's just excellent. You should check out Randy Masters' presentation for the conference. Oh my God. Randy
Yeah.
goes into the numbers of all musical intervals in the universe.
Whoa. It's been a long time since I've seen Randy and
Oh my
heard the
God.
lectures. I'm excited to see where his work has evolved.
So I have a question that ties into what you're saying. It's kind of random, but I haven't figured it out. And it's a really interesting question that you might have a really good idea for.
Great.
Why do minor chords and keys evoke sadness in most people?
Right? They do that.
I mean, it's like
Or like wistfulness.
where
Yeah.
in the body is that sadness interval?
Mm-hmm.
Where is it triggering it? Because
Mm.
it's got to be in the body somewhere. Hey, ooh, is
Mm.
somewhere in the body that is that interval is going, okay, let's
Mm.
resonate that.
Yeah, I mean, I my okay, well, this is gonna get into some of my philosophy about song. Um, my current working theory is that there's song culture that exists in a dimension that collaborates with ours, and that we are experiencing as humans access at times to this particular realm where there's like an architecture that exists that occupies that realm that relates to us and our emotional experience, and that together we're collaborating in order to bring things from the unseen dimension into the seen dimension. And
It
that,
makes me think of the astral field.
yeah, the astral field. And so, and I think like when I think about mathematics or when I think about certain things, it's not like we're creating that. It's like, oh, we're kind of discovering what something's already made of, right? And so, similar with sound and emotion, I think that music, like songs, I think of song being as beings, and I think of muses as like holding different lineages of a type of song being that comes and finds different channels to collaborate with, and that there's a type of culture, that like a cultural exchange that happens in there. And so I think similarly with, like you're saying, that this where in the body does it happen? I don't know that if it's the part of the body. I think it's an open, it's a sensual a sensory perception to a realm that exists to support us and to come into existence through us, and that we cooperate and collaborate with, and that's just part of the nature of it. Like a major chord feels bright because it exists as part of that realm in the brightness, and we are transcribing that brightness, and that the minor chord exists as a tone that we are transcribing. That's not like, it's just sort of a transcribing and a relating of that, and that like the emotional aspect is part of, actually like the fuel that allows it to happen somehow.
Mhm. Cool. I love that. It's like there's this archetypal emotional realm that we've developed over many millennia of consciousness that we're part of, that
Hmm.
actually goes into the physical body, uh,
Mm.
based on however physical and emotional relate, which is about the only people that have really explored that is heart math, right?
No, interesting.
Uh, but then it's like, but if it's all one, then there is a part of the body.
I
Just
think
in,
it's like yeah, I wonder if it's a body or if it's an extension of like our super conscious. Like, because I think about
uh-huh.
anything within the archetypal realm existing within us already on like as the one thing. But I think that manifest reality expresses itself in differentiated ways. So there's the we here also. There's the like I, the we, and the thou. Like there's like these three levels of being. There's just like me and you here. We're like a we. There's just me here. You're is like an expression of me. And then there's like the big one where like we're just like the one thing. And I feel like all those levels of reality are manifesting simultaneously, and that somehow like when a song, so thinking about that, when I think of like a song being as a separate being, it's still probably coming from a part of like a me that's in like un disconnectable, always connected to the one super consciousness, but is also part of like my individuated like higher consciousness, but is also a representative of a realm that is also differentiated. And that like
Mhm.
somehow, so like the part of my body that it is, it's like, well, is it my physical body, or is it my greater body of the like greater electromagnetic field that I'm connected to, that is also connected to time space continuum, that's also connected to all realities arising simultaneously. And so like these kinds of things where, yeah, like because emotion is like an energy that's like in constant motion, and that is, there's this thing about emotions that like it's a response to, my understanding of emotion is that it's a response to construct awareness and values and like unconscious needs being met or not met, and that like there's this extremely human emotion, like field of energy that is emotion that similarly I don't think exists in a place in the body, you know?
Right, right.
Like,
Oh my God. So this
yeah.
is really interesting because, you know, I live right on the ocean. My front porch is overlooking the entrance to the bay, and I play guitar there. And
Hmm.
I've noticed because I play the ocean,
Mm.
right? And I'll
Hmm.
play
Hmm.
the birds and I'll play the just all the waves and everything and the whole view. And I notice that the nature, separate from the animals, has no emotion. And when I
Mm.
play anything that's emotional, like anything more minor that brings in more sadness,
Hmm.
it goes, nature is like, can't relate. There's no emotion in nature. So whenever I don't, so it's like if I want to play, it's always a major chord or
Wow.
major key when I'm working where I'm playing the ocean,
Wow.
which is really,
That's
and
really interesting. Yeah, like it reminds me of all the rags, which I'd love to study more. They have like a rag in classical Indian music for the time of day. Like this is, for sunrise, this one's for sunset, this one's for invoking joy, this one's
hmm
for lamenting. And they have the different rags. And like when I think about that, it's like, oh yeah, they exist. They're channeling the very specific architecture of that realm to strengthen and fortify and alchemize and participate in and
yeah.
amplify.
So I was thinking that the body in its purest physical form has no emotion,
Mm,
right?
mm,
There's parts in there that are triggered by emotion and we get physiological responses from it and such, but there's the core part that is emotionless
mm.
because it's just physical matter.
Right. Yeah. It's like that think question of like, what is the spirit made of? Because when we can't
hmm
really locate it, but we know that when the body dies, like a few ounces go away,
Right, right,
like all of a
right.
sudden, what are those ounces? Where did it go? Where can you, if you cut the human open, can you find where those ounces are existing? Like,
Oh my God. So Alice Bailey, this really affected me because Alice Bailey said spirit manifests precisely in, as far as life, in the blood first.
that
And
makes
it's
sense.
like, so it's like, oh my God, there's the connection. And then she said, consciousness is in the nervous system.
Ooh, uh-huh. But life force is in the blood. That's right. People can still be alive if the heart's pumping, but the brain is dead.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Uh-huh. Okay. What do you do? What do you
That was a
do?
nice tangent. I love
I
that
know.
exploration of the multidimensional nature. And what a beautiful way to step into what do I do?
Right. Who are you?
Um, I am, yeah, I'm a chaser of the tales of the muse. I like to go down these wormholes, so it's a happy meeting for me to encounter you here, David. And I'm a songwriter and an art producer. I love producing short films and ritual theater experiences um, and songs and produce. I'm in a flurry of creativity all the time that has only been strengthened and fortified by my love and training in sound science, energetic medicine, and music therapy, and my practice as a music therapist for many years. That all really fueled me to engage with my muse in interesting ways. I love to philosophize on creative process too and support emerging artists and getting out of their way to connect to the creativities that's chasing them down, that's hunting them down, and find ways to, um, as a channel and as a vessel, to do the excavation work needed to resolve the material that's getting in the way, so that we have that emotional energy freed up and circulating in our ecosystem and our biosphere in a way that's allows for us to hold greater and greater amounts of creative resonance. And so some of that is by supporting people's spirit to come into their body more, feel more safe in their nervous system, feel more safe in their voice, feel feel like they're worthy of following through on their creative processes, locate interruptions in their development with creativity and repatterning those. And I love taking people specifically at working a lot with women in working through rites of passage and developmental stages and ages. I do a 9-month course called Voice of My Womb, which is a kind of my synthesis in years of work as a music therapist, as a vocal alchemist, as a creative being, and as someone who has really loved studying energetic psychology and and understanding stages of development. And so I take women through a 9-month program where we unpack, what are the different ages and stages of the feminine experience of the blood rights, like when you're talking about like, oh, wow, like life is in the blood, it's very visceral for a woman who bleeds, for beings who are born with wombs that bleed. We have a very somatic relationship with blood and that very important and powerful thresholds that we walk through that greatly impact our sense of self, our identity, our relationship to others, and our relationship to our own creative process. So I take people through a guided music therapy crucible, a way to awaken their voice inside of understanding what I'm calling like the great sacred geometrical song of the divine feminine, which is understanding what the interrelationship is between these many gateways that we walk through with the blood and how that impacts us cyclically as we spiral to um, hold more and more and more consciousness as we develop through these womb gates and the sacred rhythms that awaken in the womb when we come into menstruation, when we give birth, when we move out of menstruation and out of fertility phase, and these different phases of life that just evolve, continue to create higher octaves of being in terms of the cycles of life and death. And we explore all of that through creative process, songwriting, singing, toning, finding the emergent, connecting to our soul, going on deep personal, like developing our own taste and flavors and like what do we like, what do we not like, what if we could write a song about anything in the world, what would we write about? Why is that such a hard question to answer? Like we get into all of that. And that's what I love doing the most. I love applying what I understand about the nature of reality is that everything is arising and fades into a song, a sound that emerges and manifests in different ways and echoes and releases and then come back into form. And the way Jonathan Goldman said it is that sound makes and breaks and rearranges physical reality. And so if we take that in and really say, well, if I'm a vessel of sound and music is my birthright and this voice is my birthright and these emotions are visitors and
Mhm.
guides for me and to navigate the form during this journey of my incarnation, and that music gets to be an ally in self realization as a process, as a way to help me uncover what's inside of me, and bring what's inside of me outside of me, so I can be in that feedback loop, like what is her name, Shirley Edwards,
Mhm.
is that her with the voice map, with the voice mandala piece?
Yeah.
Yeah. So she was talking about, was like, oh yeah, the power of like when you sing in and you can like put it like a mandala and like get that fed back to you. I see the same thing with songs. Like when we write a song, even if it's unfinished, we get to see all this material that's inside of us and it like comes back to it as a feedback loop. And we can like take it in as an image or as like a piece of information and use it as a stepping stone of like, wow, what else is in me? What if I take it further, and who else is in the room, and develop our curiosity and imagination that way. I think it helps create a lot of people who are, this type of work helps us cultivate more congruence and power inside of us. It helps us to create a trust in our own instincts and in our ability to relate to the other than human realm by cultivating a relationship with inspiration and the muses and the soft, subtle voices that are courting us and that are stalking us sometimes to come into this world. Is because they want to help. These energy frequencies want to benevolent supporters that want us to help. And so I love helping people build relationship with themselves, heal things that interrupted that trust so that they can open and become the channels to bring forward their soul and their craft in a way that when they die they've been fully used up, like they like put left it all on the table. They were able to bring their gifts forward and leave their imprint on the great song. And yeah, that's what I do.
Oh my God. Oh my God. So it sounds incredibly rich.
Hmm.
And it sounds also like it's never the same because you're watching the flow at every
Yeah.
moment as to what
Hmm.
people need, right?
Yeah. It's
But
never the same, and there's common themes.
uh-huh,
There's
uh-huh.
there's reg there's it's never the same. It's always emergent. It's changing as I change and as I evolve. And the themes are pretty solid. The
Hmm.
themes have been, I think the themes that really relate, I think, to a traditional sense of the hero's journey where people have to kind of like discover their gifts, discover their core wounds, go through the dark night of the soul, regather a sense of vitality and reclaim their power and like reemerge and move through the birth canal again and like do it over and over and over again. Like that cycle is always there.
It
And I
sounds
think,
like it's mostly
mm,
finding the blockages of the whole array of
yeah.
lifetime and breaking it up and then moving into spirit in that
Mhm,
out the birth canal into to source and then
mhm.
playing and really expanding into creativity.
Totally. Yeah, I consider myself a midwife of the muse.
So okay, so when you talk about actually having them make songs, so first of all, give me an idea of the process you use to get them over being afraid to make sound.
Great. Well, I do a variety of different vocal practices to just start really slow, hum it out, connect to the body. A lot of people are tripped up about sound because they're trying to be heard and they're still relating to how their voice was being experienced by others. And so I really love to start a process of offering sound first to our own nervous system and as a gift to ourselves. And then move slowly from there into spatial exploration, like just exploring our biosphere and our spatial awareness and like letting sound actually be a pathway of self-discovery first before it becomes a relational experience. And I find that when people have more some time where they get to have sound just be for them, there's a confidence that grows. There's a self determination that gets to get fortified. And then when we move into, okay, well, now we're sharing sound to be heard by others, there's more sure-footedness.
Mhm.
Um, there's more natural like resting into something, and then we do group processes. So that's first with sound, and I do a lot of games with sound healing. I'll just do a shout out for my vocal alchemy program called Vocal Core Resonance, which is a collaboration with myself and an extraordinary vocalist and alchemist named Elijah Ray, who's really just one of my favorite singers in the world. And he and I developed this really amazing online curriculum called Vocal Core Resonance, where we take people through like a jungle gym, a playground of vocal exploration and time and space, and playing with memories and playing with concepts and playing with the body and like astral projection a little bit. Like we go to a lot of realms, and they're all really fun. And we like to call it like a Hogwarts training for folks that want to use their voice as their primary alchemical tool. So a little shout out for Vocal Core Resonance VCR. So I apply a lot of those practices in my work, and then yeah, taking people through kind of just different training segments so we can get new perspectives, because I think that perspective taking is very important in getting outside of ourselves. If we can hear things in a new way or take perspective on something that was a limitation and see it as a stepping stone rather than a wall, I think that can help. So I like in different ways to uh, organize topics to just shake it up a little bit. Like, let's take a new perspective on what used to be holding us back, and then we take it right into the writing room. Like, I like to play trance music or uh, drumming or shaker or just drone, like a very gentle, chill drone space, and let people free write. Like, go to town, get unfiltered. Here's a topic, and we pick different topics based on what the room is bouncing, and prompts people to have somewhere to go. Like sometimes the open space is just like it's overwhelming to try and make a decision. People get frozen, so it's like, okay, choose this topic and like write everything about it, or write the opposite of it, or go on your own tangent. It's like something to push against, right? Um, something that seems like a material, like a fixed thing. And because I think that's fun. Like when we're in the muse realms, everything's unfixed. It's not like we don't know it's happening. It's still like emergent. So giving like a little fixed something. So it's like grab onto it. Let's bring it to earth. Let's bring it here for a moment. And we go into that process a little bit, and then it slowly builds from there. We can
So
go.
it's like I'm
Yeah.
sorry, it's like building, it's like creating a song altogether in one way.
Well, sometimes
Uh,
it's all song altogether. Sometimes it's like if I'm working online, I'm just sort of guiding the process, and people are writing their own songs using the
okay.
same prompt. But there's this group field that happens when we're writing together that starts to push things out, and I'll often give like songwriting, like I'll break down songs, I'll deconstruct songs that they know so that they can sort of see what are the building blocks of song. Maybe they've never thought about it before. And then we go into a writing process and be like, cool, how could you put building blocks together? Um, and we'll get into songwriting process, and from there we'll go into refinement and
Even if people know
yeah.
nothing about music and writing songs.
Totally. Yeah. Well, because I think people who a lot of people come in as beginners, but I think, and they say, I don't have any musical training. I don't know how to read music, blah, blah, blah. And I think people have this idea that knowing something about music means that they know something about classical music, which is actually just a form of music that has really been it's rather new in terms of where music lives in our ancestral bodies. And it was really only accessible to the elite class for most of its time on. um,
Uh, yeah,
and
writing
not
kind of
not a
changed the whole world.
right, and not to mention not that many women had access to it. So mostly I work with women who are like, oh, I don't know how to read music. It's like that's not like that's one.
This is what I always tell people. It's like I had this woman, she said, I know nothing about, she goes, I know nothing about music at all.
Uh-huh.
And I'm like,
Right.
you just sang the most perfect song, perfectly in pitch with a really interesting melody. We
Right.
are all incredibly wonderful singers when we speak.
Yeah. I think a lot of people don't recognize how many songs they actually know. And that if they were invited to think about the song critically, like, and pull up the lyrics and just looked at it and like saw what parts repeated and, oh, this is the chorus. These are the verses. This is the part that's a bridge. It departs. This is the part that repeats, it hooks. Like, a lot of people haven't been invited to look at it. And so I think that once you start inviting people to have active listening, they can start to review, like, oh, I actually know the lyrics to 100 songs, and I love that part. And they start to understand, oh, I have a brain that hears music, which is uniquely, as far as my understanding, a human thing. It's like that activates our entire neurology, and it turns us all the way on. It's like all humans have the capacity to be all the way turned on a brain level when we're engaged in a music process. And so people all have that as part of their foundation of their existence. And most people probably know a lot of songs. And it's just asking the right questions and presenting information in a way where you encourage. people to recognize how much they already know about something that they love, and to to bring forth their love of the thing to help them realize how much they know about what they love. They've just not been asked to define it yet.
I've got a
Mm.
disability
Mm.
that is a secret. You can't tell anybody.
Oh, okay. Except for all these people that are listening.
Right, right. It's recorded, right? So, I've got 150 CDs that
Wow.
I've produced. I wrote the number one selling book in the world on audio recording.
Oh my
I've sold
gosh.
over 100,000 copies. It's the book used in recording schools around the world for 20 years. I wrote the number one selling book in audio producing as well. It's the
Wow.
book on how to produce music, as well as the number one book in sound healing as well.
It's amazing.
But so I'm really good at coming up with melodies and such, but I can't remember any melodies ever. It's a weird thing. It's like a karaoke bar is my worst nightmare.
Wow. Okay, so you have a very unique brain.
It's unique. And you know
Yeah.
what? It actually made it really hard to learn foreign languages because I couldn't
Wow.
remember the melodies of the language.
Oh my gosh. That's a
But I can come up
Mhm.
with melodies in a second. I can't remember any of my songs of
Wow. And
150 CDs.
even going back, even if you listen to one song like 20 times in a row, you can't
So
remember the name.
I can do. I mean, there's certain songs I've
Yeah.
learned, I play
Mhm.
on guitar, but for the most part, it's like, if you say, "Oh, sing this song," I can't come up with a melody.
Wow, that's super
It's that part of the
interesting.
brain that has a little disconnect, or or
Wow.
or not disconnect. It's just unique and it's the way it's wired.
Yeah, you have a unique wiring, an atypical wiring. And it must be true for plenty of people, that there's all kinds of unique instances where like people hear things or perceive things differently than what's typical. Um, and so I would probably want to go in there. My music therapy brain is like, oh, a project, like like
Right,
what
right,
would I apply
right.
here to
Well,
to work that?
okay, so this is where I'm at, and it's really a lot of the same place that a lot of my students are at as well. It's really, I mean, I'm not really a good singer,
Mm,
but I know, and it happens a lot. I mean, I can make sound, woo, right? I can go, but I know when I connect to higher energies
mm,
that it comes through perfectly with the
mm,
most amazing energy.
mm.
And so the whole journey is how to hold that trance state in the higher energies for a whole, even sound bath for an hour and a half. I
Wow.
can do it. I'll go in and out. Some
Mhm.
people, what I mean, like Tom Kenyon, or there's a lot of people, yourself, I bet, that, you get in the zone and it's just you are in the zone and you can stay there for an hour and whatever comes through, you are channeling spirit and it's coming through in a beautiful melody because you're not thinking about it. Right.
Mhm.
But it's like it goes and comes. So what I've started working on is shorter intentions,
Yeah.
a 10-minute intention. Okay, we're running universal love for the whole planet. I can hold that for 10 minutes at least.
I mean, it's that thing of like, what does it take to develop a biosphere that can hold higher levels of like energy for longer amounts of time? Like
Oh, this is a juicy question.
it's a juicy question.
It's really the whole deal because, I mean, the energy you bring to what you're doing is the whole deal.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think that that's a great part of that's the current crucible I'm in general in my life as a practitioner, as a practitioner of understanding what role the body and the unconscious and the our memory plays in um, how we arrive to the present moment, and what types of I'm going to say pillars of awareness support us to stabilize and more mature levels, year after year. Like, I think when I think about developmental stages of human consciousness and the spiritual growth that a human goes through when they dedicate their life to continuing to grow, you know, we're using the weird word spirituality, but it's just like the commitment to growing beyond your previous shell. That um part of it is letting go, and that's letting go of what it was to allow something to arise. And that tension is that creative tension of where we're just about to let go into something else and surrender and then contract again and then expand and then contract. I feel like that is the creative tension that kind of exists in the same place of, like, where does music exist in the body? Where does emotion exist? Where does the spirit exist? What is that tension? Where did that tension come from, and why has it always been riding me?
Oh my God, this is, I'm just going off. This is incredible, wonderful. So I always think first, and you've mentioned it, to develop coherence of stillness in
Mm,
your system so you're not bouncing around, so you can hold a space and an energy.
mm-hmm,
But the 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 not opposite, but the other half of what you just said is really being in the flow. But even to be in the flow and go with the tension and release and whatever comes, you still need that stability core.
mm-hmm,
Otherwise, you're going to be bouncing off the walls and not
mm-hmm.
and going back into your 3D body, right?
Uh-huh.
And losing
Yeah.
it, or just not being able to hold the focus of the flow that you're in.
Mm. I love that. Not being able to hold the focus of the flow. Yeah, like it's holding flow state, right? Like, and I think this is why the stories of really interesting beings who practice meditation are fascinating. My partner is a very devoted meditator and scholar in Buddhist philosophy and all forms of meditation. So it's a conversation we have a lot. I'm not as skillful of a meditator or well practiced in my habits. I meditate in other ways and I can hold a vibe for a while. Um, but he's very committed to this incredible practice of devotion where it's like meditate when it's raining, meditate when you're tired, meditate when you're unhappy, meditate when you feel blissful, meditate when you're neutral, meditate when you're hungry or cranky. And there's something really stabilizing in that because it's continuing to be willing to show up no matter what the conditions of the self are and how they're arising, to show up to the thing in the room that goes beyond that, and to stay in relationship to that at all times. And and I'm so inspired by that way of being. I think one of my teachers of meditation, Lair Short, he talks about cultivating congruence of being allowed, where we're cultivating the congruence of our different levels of self, which is like our mind, our body, our spirit, our will, our speech, that what we are holding in our imagination matches our body posture, matches what we're saying out loud, our sound. That, like, the combination of sound plus like movement plus the light of our consciousness, like these three things are so powerful in creations, and we are electromagnetic beings constantly creating with the feedback loop of the universal energies. And so creating congruence of body, speech, and mind is like an essential focal point, I think, for beings who are committed to the path of becoming more skillful at that. And so this
Yeah.
is a big part of my process right now as an individual and as something that I teach, is like, how do we increase congruence of the communication that our body is making, our posture, with what we're saying and where we're coming from when we say it and what we're holding in our mind when we say it, so that we become incredibly integrous as beings, that we're very trustable because our these things are all communicating the same thing, and we become very powerful in our voice and in the sound that we're making and in the ideas that we're holding and in the way our body leans into that penetrates in a very powerful way.
Oh
Um,
my God, this is so important. And I think there's a huge part that is so obvious, but a lot of people don't really focus on or become aware of.
mhm,
And because people talk about the tonality of your voice,
mhm,
right? Which is really a timbre, and it could be a little more edgy or it could be a little more warm, right?
mhm,
And we say, oh, their tone of their voice was a certain way. But it's
mhm,
really much more the song that you sing when you express something.
mm,
Like the
mhm.
song of criticalness.
Ooh,
Don't you know what I mean?
I do. I
Da da da
certainly
da da da
do.
da 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 da, right? Versus, you know what I mean, right? And to be able to express something from integrity means getting the right song, not
Mm,
and it comes through and so you can learn listen to the songs that you sing if it doesn't feel right.
mm, mhm,
It's like,
mm.
it's like I had a long time ago, I had a girlfriend. She used to say, I love you. And I'm like, really? Oh, yeah. And I'm like, did you say that a little sweeter? She said, I mean it. It's like, I love you.
Uh-huh. Yeah, and I think that these things are cultivations. I think for some people it's natural, and I think it's a skill that can be cultivated, just like any song.
Mhm.
This is any art, the art of melodic speech and speech that comes from place in you, because there's so much communicated in the tone, just as you described. Someone, and I think that's where a lot of people are walking around. We're like, okay, they said these things, but it doesn't match their body language or the field of energy in the room, or even the mental images that I am getting when they're speaking. Like somehow the signal that is being sent in the room. And I think we're all a lot more telepathic than we give ourselves credit for it, which is a slippery slope because we also, I want to cultivate taking people at their word while also understanding that not everyone has cultivated congruence, and
Right.
how do I just hold discernment around when someone can be taken at their word and when they're still getting comfortable sharing all of themselves and putting it all on the table.
I just wrote a book on sound loving relationships.
Oh, I love
And
that.
it's interesting because there's like, I put together 5 levels or notice 5 levels of communication coming across. One is the energy, but as you say, a lot of people aren't in touch with that energy, so you can't
Mm-hmm.
really trust it
Mm-hmm.
completely,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
right? Or
Mm-hmm.
it could even be manipulative, like,
Yeah.
oh God, I love you so much. Please do this for me,
Yeah.
right?
Totally.
But what I learned is the most important one is the intention behind it.
Yeah.
And it's either selfish or for the higher good of all or both.
Mm-hmm.
And we know that the
Mm.
second somebody opens their mouth, why they're actually saying something.
Yeah, like I love this question around intention and intent. Like it'd be fun to look at the word. I'm a big word person. I love to look at the etymology of words. I'd love to research
Mm,
the etymology of intention. There's something about in where it's like I'm coming in with tension. I don't know if intention is connected to the word tension or tense, but like intense, like almost like I'd be curious to look it up. Maybe someone out there is looking it up right now and can comment in the chat
uh,
wherever this
uh,
is being shown. What is the etymology of intention and how does it reveal where the energy is being directed or how or why and what is it coming into?
Boy, the number one thing you said that stuck with me earlier that I think is really important here is when you said that you, instead of having people express themselves, you have them uh, have an intention of finding what's right for them inside
Uh-huh.
from the beginning. And
Yeah.
this is one thing that I've done with my students many times when they're feeling a little insecure while doing a treatment or a sound bath.
Mm,
I go, imagine how important it is to help them heal
mm,
and
mm,
expand their consciousness.
mm,
And
mm.
that's your total focus
Wow.
instead of like how good I am.
Yeah. Oh,
Now,
I love that. It gets people out of the way of it being about themselves. It's like getting the like moving into a relational quality, like being in the being of service rather than being stuck in the self. I love that. It helps
exactly.
that helps a lot of people take action, I think, that orientation. Because it's bodhicitta, it's compassion for others, including the self. We can still be of service to the self in terms of being service to all beings. Um got to include ourselves in there lest we be martyrs and overextend.
Oh my God. So, so with your workshop, where would you say, or the things you do, what is the ideal final goal? I know that's not an easy thing because it's not just one, it's a whole realm, it's a whole bubble of existence.
My main goal for my body of work is for people to come at increase their capacity for self-compassion no matter what phase of the creative process they're in. And that when they come with themselves with a kind of compassion and acceptance, that allows for the natural cycle to be repaired within them. Because I think when we are in a natural cycle, there's going to be moments of expressiveness, there's going to be moments of quiet reflection, there's going to be moments of struggle, there's going to be moments of exhaustion and replenishment, and moments of getting stuck. And my hope is that through modeling the nature of the creative process, moving through all of those cycles constantly over and over and over again, that people don't get stuck in any one of those places and think there's something wrong with them or take it personally. I think people make up a lot of stories about being in a place of tension or languishing and think that like they're never going to get out of that, and then like kind of fixate on and identify with that, or they're like shut down and empty and they like think that that's the way it's going to be forever. And I think that I like to be with people to again cultivate an awareness of cyclical wisdom, increase the capacity for self-compassion and reparenting, and model and cultivate with them, creating for the love of it, for the fun of it, for the joy, and getting and practice being in flow state together. And that through that, it could become more easy to pull yourself out of a rut, to be able to get into a rut and get out of it, and to follow through with things that were once, to know how to resource when you're stuck and follow in the follow through, and to know how to finish things and celebrate the completion, and to get over the inertia of starting. Like I want people to have an experience of successfully moving through all of those phases of the creative process without um, and also and have that experience enough times where they're like, I can do it, to just I can go at life and I can surrender to the creativity that wants to come through me, and I can encounter obstacles along the way and have tools and resources to meet those obstacles as opportunities for growth and for refinement rather than um, as symbols of defeat.
I think this should be the essence of
Mhm.
our whole educational system for kids.
Totally. 100%
Yeah,
agree.
yeah. I
Yeah.
mean, the number one thing is kids, and I mean, I've got it myself.
hmm
Am I good enough? Am I
hmm
stupid? Right?
Right.
And it's like it's built in right now because it's all about competition.
Mm.
And 25% of all kids are labeled failure when they fail the test that's required.
I mean, I was not a great student as a young person. I was labeled as having learning disabilities. I was like not excellent, except when I was really into it. And then I excelled and I was like a prolific and I was creative and I was like taking it into my like little creative domains and building, whole universes around it when I was really excited about it. And I would just, toggle back and forth between like total distraction and inability to grasp concepts and like total innovation. And that was the type of learner that I was. And so I was labeled kind of like not great in school. And it took a lot of self-compassion and recovery to find my lane and go deeper into it and allow what I was really good at to help me grow up the other parts that were struggling. And I feel much more capable now as an adult person to work with things that are challenging for me or advocate strongly that someone else handles them on my behalf.
I mean, you came out, but there's so many kids that go to crime, go to drugs, or just therapy their whole life,
Right.
right?
Yeah.
Right? It's the number one thing. Every single exercise should be a blast.
Yeah. Yeah. Or at least like learning how to, or at least being able to address, like teachers being able to address how do we overcome resistance to doing something we don't like? Like, how do we find the ability to do that outside of ourselves without making it a story about our value? I think, like with children, my hope for children, to anchor in and repattern interruptions in the creative process sequence. So, like, really practice getting people to start things, follow through, complete, and celebrate, and like really leaning into each of those phases as on with individual support. And also simultaneously, I think it's equally important for children to cultivate a literacy of emotions and personal values. That like with a literacy of emotions and values and ability to understand when they're telling themselves a story or when they're tripping or they're making stuff up about their values, but then they can understand like what more language about what's going on. I studied a lot of compassionate communication, and I feel like that the models presented by developing a literacy of needs and values and longings and emotions are essential and critical to humans growing up. um, and and being able to lean into those that their creative life force. So both of those things side to side, I think if we worked that out, like if that was a main curriculum course alongside the math and the leading, whatever, like that would be, I think that we would see a lot more human thriving.
We took every emoji of emotions and had the kids make the sound of every emotion.
That's the jam right there.
And then this little 4-year-old, she says, "Can we do the sound of love?" And
No.
I'm like, "Okay." Ooh.
Oh, that's
Oh
really
my God.
sweet.
We're putting together a think tank. We've already got 2,500 exercises for the kids from 3 months all the way up to 18
Wow.
years because we got a
Wow.
big grant. And so I'd like to get you on the think tank because really what I mean, we've got to find the gifts of
Totally.
everyone.
Totally. I mean, I think that's what life is here. We're alive on this planet in order to give our gift, to discover our gift and give it away, give it all the way away. Yeah.
I love talking with you.
I love talking with you too. This was so fun.
Any other thing you want to share before we end?
I'll just share a little bit about this film, Underground River, just
Hmm.
briefly, tagging back to my love of story and the relationship between story and mythology and the way humans, you know, chew on a story and it's delicious. We're made for story. It's part of our ancestral like vibe. And so this and my love of that and finding ways to create stories or remember stories, the deeper stories that are related to sound. So this story came as a very beautiful gift from what I, sensed as this other world, other than human muse that I'm in relationship with that offered me this gift of this story. And I'll actually even share like on my wall, I have this image right now, which is the cover of my album Underground River. And it's this image of the water deba. And this was the story of the origin um, of how of life on planet Earth. Or another planet, might have been a different planet, but I had a memory specifically of being like a water being, like a water elf, and and I was made of light, but I lived in the water in these these beautiful shallow river waters um, with other light beings in the water. And together we would create sound and dance, like a orchestrated dance. And through our movement and our sound, we created seeds of light inside the water, kind of leaning into the sonoluminescent stuff that like when you like shine sound into the water, it created light. So it was this influence of the songs of the water beings and the dances creating these light codes and these seeds that then germinated all of life on planet Earth. And so this image and this film, Underground River, and the music is the of on that album that I made with Daniel Berkman, who's an incredible Bay Area multi-instrumentalist and kora player. It's primarily kora and non-linguistic vocals on this album. Was the language of the water spirits that when we're navigating the great griefs of the planet, that we can sing with the original language of the water spirits that exists in our blood, because our blood is connected to these original seeds of light of our water ancestors, and that when we sing and move our bodies, that we can connect to this song of the underground river that connects us all.
So let's watch it.
Yeah.
Thank you for all the work you do.
Mm. Thank you, David. Thank you, everyone. It's been such a pleasure to share. Enjoy this short film made in collaboration with Earth Based Media.
Take care.